Jack Fitzwilliam has always wanted to make this film. Grand landscapes, tall mountains, new cultures, eagle hunters.
I really wanted to get these like lower angle power moves. Part of that is because it's a cool shot, and part of it's just exhilarating to have some guy on a horse with an eagle ride so close to you. There is a world where you need to plan, and you have these sets and you bring all these people together, and this wasn't that. He immediately was like, boom. And we were like, yeah, we want to do that.
I mean, it's a textbook passion project. But how does one afford to make something like this? Even if all you're paying for is a long flight, cheap meals, and some equipment rental, it will still cost you thousands.
All these brands are trying to do something different and something cool that is going to get eyeballs on their brand, right? If you're able to utilize your connections and send a really beautiful idea to somebody and see if they're interested in it, you don't have to make an income on it. You don't have to buy a home off of this situation, but you can get them to say, hey, if you cover my costs of what this trip is, I can provide you so much because this is doing for me far more than what it's gonna do for this brand, but you can still make them a part of it.
In this episode, Jack tells all. And by the way, he's one of the curators behind Eyecandy, which, if you know what that is, then you know what that is. This show is made possible in part by viewers like you, and obviously FrameSet, which is where you go to develop your ideas before you shoot them. Search for the perfect references and use them to build a pitch that will win you the project of your dreams. It's also totally free to get started, so check the link below. Okay, thanks. Okay, dude, first listen, I gotta say that I absolutely love this piece the second I saw it, and you chose to deliver it in these 3 chapters. They're like 3 different pieces of their own, but telling the same story. I mean, what do you call this piece? It's not a travel vlog, but it's also not a high-end commercial production. It feels somewhere in between.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it either, to be honest, but it definitely felt like it needed more than just a few posts, and it's definitely something that kind of built itself as it happened. It's not one of those things that was super planned out ahead of time. It was more or less, let's plan something really cool and see what happens after it. Mountains, horses, sheep in the road. The car rattled with stories of its own. Shock shot, radio dead, bribed 3 cops before breakfast. Long rides on mud-soaked ponies through unforgiving storms, sleeping in homes they called yurts, where smoldering cow pies kept us warm. We drank milk from horses and ate cheese that fought back. We made space for 4 we didn't know, on our way to find the men who hunt with birds, not bullets. Whoa. The first idea was essentially just to capture cool looking things, and then it was more just a fun personal thing, and we'd always wanted to explore and see the eagle hunters, and that just kind of kept building on itself to do all these other things that were surrounding that. And when we were in the car, we were just listening to music. I mean, a lot of time spent in the car on that trip, and we just heard the song that was like a spoken word. I think it was a Zach Bryan piece. It was like a spoken word poem with a guitar, and it was just like real simple. And it was like the story, and it just sounded so cool. And it made me realize like this is exactly what needs to happen with this video. And Jason, same boat. It was just one of those things where we both were like, oh my God, this is insane. This is perfect. This is the idea. And that was like towards the end of the trip. And so we just really got everything figured out right at the end there. And we shot a few scenes in order to kind of tie that idea together. But most of it was just stuff that we were just shooting because we thought it was cool. And then when we realized we could make a real cool story out of this, that's when we shot a few other things to kind of tie that idea together. So.
Yeah, I mean, most filmmakers, myself including, know how exciting it is to put yourself in the right, location at the right time and capture these bits of magic that happen before you. And that's super exciting. But I think some of us also know the opposite of that, where every single shot is completely formulated to succeed with all these different people. And how much of this shoot was either of those? I mean, did you literally just take a camera and put yourself in the right place at the right time and shoot all this amazing stuff? Or how much of it was planned?
I would say, so the trip itself was super planned, but with only 2 weeks notice, basically. So we kind of threw everything together, and we knew we had mood boards, we had all the things that my main income source is working in production. Every single shot is planned. It's so hard to communicate with other people if you don't have a plan. Everyone knows the worst directors show up on set and go, like, they don't know what they want, and everyone's freaking out because like the director doesn't know what he wants, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things where like there is a world where you need to plan, right? When you have these sets and you bring all these people together, and this wasn't that, right? This didn't have a gaffing crew. This didn't have all these different things. But what it did need, and what it could always every project can benefit from it, is a really good colorist, really good sound, and really leaning into the same ideas that you try to capture on set, right? Like you're trying to find the shadow side, and you're trying to make the light do something interesting and add layers and figure out what best way can capture what you're seeing in front of you. And in a production sense, you are really trying to visualize that ahead of time. And things do pop up on set that are random, that are cool to film. But this case, it was more or less a flipped version of that, where a few shots were definitely planned, and we moved the car in a certain position, like that shot that I just saw pop up there of us lifting up the hood. That was a shot where we parked the car in the right spot, and I wanted to get the sun in the right place and like make it look like, how are we going to showcase that we went through 3 cars on this trip? And that was a perfect way to do it. You know what I mean? And so that was something that you kind of pull from that production mindset, that production world, but you just tie it together with all this extra footage. And it's almost like treating that extra footage like stock footage, maybe. I don't know if I want to say that, but it's definitely in that world where like you kind of can blend the two, you know what I mean? And so, and I think a similar thing happens on bigger sets and bigger productions too, right? Like they'll go out and they'll have a few shots planned, or most of the thing planned, but they'll go out and be like, you know what? Let's just go out and shoot some stuff in pretty light in a field and just get some B-roll and have, the DP, go have fun and get some cool stuff. And then we'll kind of edit it a little bit together and post. But so.
I imagine a lot of this came together in post. There's a very special moment when you're editing where whether it's you find the right music choice or the perfect clip, like your pillar shots that like they land at a certain edit, and you just like fall off the chair and go, oh my God, this is it. This is all, we did it. This worked out. Like how much of this video is that?
1,000%. Yeah. I'd say like a third of it is just going through and being like, this is the shot that I had envisioned for when I'm looking at, right? So like when we're planning this thing, we're planning to work with these eagle hunters, for example, and we have a specific day and we have a specific location, and we showed up and they were like, okay, what do you want to do? And we were like, well, we've never been here. We didn't location scout. I did Google Earth a little bit. But they just asked us what we wanted to do, right? And we knew we were going to go camping with them and going up into the mountains, but it's almost as if they thought we knew the whole area, and we were like, we don't know anything about this whole space. Like we're trying to figure this out at the same time as shooting them, and so I had all these ideas of like how I wanted to capture like that shot where he catches the eagle and it's silhouetted against the sky, and I really wanted to get these like lower angle kind of these power moves where like they're just flying past you, and like part of that is because it's a cool shot, and part of it's just exhilarating to have some guy on a horse with an eagle ride so close to you. And it's just like it's such a heart-pounding thing, and it feels so cool. And like anyway, there's a few shots in that, and like that shot, if you go back a little bit, there's them standing on a hilltop and there's a backdrop there. That was in my mood board somewhere. In my Instagram save, that one. Yeah. And so I looked around and I tried to find that spot, but you're doing it so fast. Like it's you're as you're driving up to the area, and like we're dealing with bribing cops and all this other stuff, you're still like looking out the window being like, that could be a good peak to shoot on, or that could be. So it's just like production madhouse where like you're taking all the things that you normally do, like a location scout day and like all these other days that you separate everything out, and you're just doing it all at once. And and you're just being aware of where the sun's going to be, and like how can you, and you're thinking in your head like, what can the colorist do to make this look cooler, or is this like not going to be salvageable, and like what is the dynamic range that this camera can handle, and like how can I best let this thing sing the way it needs to with the given conditions that I have. And you're doing that like just back to back to back.
How did you get this camera this close to that eagle?
Yeah, he snapped at it a few times. I think I shot on the Fuji XH2S, and it's just a little DSLR, but it can shoot ProRes and up to 6K, and like it's a great little camera, and I've always wanted to bring these bigger cameras, and the problem is that people see a big camera and border crossings, they want to be bribed, or they want a piece of it, or they don't want you to bring it. They think you're professional and they want to understand why you're there. And that's happened so many times, especially at airports too. And it just becomes a pain. And so I needed to find something that was going to give me the highest quality with the most tourist look, right? Like I needed to look like a tourist as best as I could, and then also like your subject just feels so much more at ease when they see this little camera versus seeing like this big old thing. But that, for example, that shot is just, getting right up in the eagle's face and hoping it doesn't bite you. And they're pretty chill though. I wouldn't say they're like insane.
Yeah, I mean, the small DSLR cameras that pack a punch like they never used to before to me, that's like a miracle that we have. But there's more than a few options. Why did you choose this one?
I chose it because I knew that what is going to make these things amazing is when you get the color perfect, right? Like you can make a GoPro look incredible if you have the right color choices. And the biggest issue that I found with color is when you're working with a really, thin file, it's hard to push and pull it. It's hard to save it. And so I really wanted something that had ProRes. And I think now there's an Nikon came out with that small DSLR with Red Raw, and that kind of puts you in the same world too. But this at the time was like the camera that made the most sense. It looks the most tourist, but it also has it can shoot ProRes anything that I needed, and I knew that ProRes was definitely going to give me that file punch that I could give to a colorist and make sure that when you're shooting on the fly like this, you can't get everything perfect. And sometimes the conditions aren't right. And so it's really like shifting the idea from, well, instead of adding ND to this window, maybe I can think about what the colorist can do to fix this. And sorry, colors out there, this specific project requires that, you know what I mean? But ideally you fix it all and get as good as you can in camera. And I try to do that every single time too, so.
Yeah, totally. But I think there's a lot to be said for the colors you used for this if you're thinking about that as you're shooting.
I mean, if you don't understand what a colorist can or can't do, then like it really limits. I think it's a huge limiting factor and that just goes to show you what color can do, right? Like color can really save or make something so much more appealing, right? Like I could have given him iPhone footage of this whole thing shot in H.265 and like he could still make it look like something, right? It's just like, what does the shot want and how can you make it look better? And like, it's just finding those little elements to be like, how can I make this piece sing?
We crossed rivers, knocked on doors, slept in homes with no common tongue, shared meals, magic tricks, and made up games. The laughter made sense, even if nothing else did. We drank tea that never stopped, ate mutton off the bone, tobacco for dessert, and fired a Soviet shotgun in a field behind the house.
I don't think this piece would be what it is without your connection to the locals. Can you just tell me how the heck you got so close with this family so quickly?
Oh yeah, definitely. Kyrgyzstan and Central Asia in general is a nomadic culture, right? They have always lived by the horse and eaten the horse and ridden horses and like all the things. And they also did livestock and all this stuff, but they have to move them around, right? Like the best grass in the winter is down low, and the best grass in the summer is up high, and so that means they're not constantly moving, and that's why they have these yurts that are these basically they're like teepees, American teepees, but the Central Asian version, and they just know how to take care of people. And so we showed up and we're driving through this area called Seri Jazz, and it's just like this very high altitude near the border of China and Kazakhstan, and super remote. And we just needed a place to camp, and I just walked right up to the door and asked the woman if we could camp there. And she was like, no. And she like shivered her hands like as if it was too cold. And she was like, come. And so we go inside, and we that's this little entryway. Oh, there's the house right there. Actually, you just passed it. Let's see, where is it? That one. That one. Yeah. So that's their home, and we pulled up right where the guy's standing smoking. That was where I met her, and she had us come in. I'll never forget the smell. It smelled like there's like drying meat, and we walked in, and then you go in, and then if you've never been in a place like this, in a world like this, and seen a living room, it's so fascinating to see. Like there's a car battery on the floor. I think you can see it in that shot, and they have a solar panel, and that car battery powers the whole, like right next to her knee. There's a car battery, and that's what powers their whole home. It was just so cool to see this like simplicity in that way, and and so kind. And they just had us sit down for a meal immediately, and it was a sheep knee. It was very interesting. It was like chopped off at the shin and the femur, kind of. It's like that's it. And then we went outside and he asked us if we wanted to smoke. And of course, I don't smoke, but I never gonna pass that up. Like you're always we watched him hand roll it right in front of us, and that's sort of the thing that I think they start out with this culture that allows you to do this, right? And you just be yourself and just everyone's good in the world, and then they start opening up too, and then you laugh a little bit, and as soon as you laugh, it's over. Like you can do whatever you want after that point. And he immediately was like, boom, boom, and we were like, yeah, we want to do that. And he pulled the gun out and he just set up one bottle, and we just started shooting shotguns, and that was awesome. It was cool.
I mean,
dude,
fun. I think it's a huge dream of like not just filmmakers, but anyone to be able to experience another culture this closely, this quickly, without speaking a word of understandable language to one another. I mean, all these shots are so awesome, so simple, but tell me about how you did this shot, how you kind of rigged this, because this doesn't look like, I mean, I don't know who's operating this. Maybe one of the kids?
So Peak Design was one of the, they were kind enough to give us basically one of everything that they sell, and one of those things was their tripods, and I think a good set of sticks whenever you're trying to film something that's like that shot and like all these cool landscapes. And I really like that. I think when I first got into filmmaking, I was really into the movement of the camera, and now I'm more and more interested in trying to keep the camera steady. And like there's a technique called Tableaux, and I love that technique. I feel like it's taught me so much because it's just keeping the camera stationary and making the scene really speak for itself. And anyway, loved having that Peak Design tripod for that reason, but that's what we did, which you have pulled up now. And essentially that is the Peak Design tripod rigged in a way that I'm sure my best script buddies would hate. But essentially, we stuffed the leg, and Jason and I are very resourceful people, and there's a little neck on the thing, and we pushed that up against the roof of the ceiling, and we took one of the legs and stuck it between the headrest and the seat, and then the other two legs, and put it down low, and then mounted the camera upside down, and we did a similar thing.
That's 4 points of contact.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. And
that's all you need.
And it worked great. And for a vehicle that had no shocks, it looks pretty steady. I mean, it's not that beautiful of a shot, but the point wasn't to I feel like it's really easy to fall in that trap where like every single shot you have has to be this like perfect, like amazing shot. And like, and I strive to do that, but you're never going to be able to do that. And I think it added to the story more than leaving it out.
High in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan, two men prepare their horses for a hunt. Together, they carry a centuries-old tradition woven into wind and dust.
How much time did you have with these eagle hunter people?
I think it was a total of 2.5 days, roughly. Wasn't much time. I mean, the whole trip was maybe, it's tough. We were gone for about a month, but a week and a half of that was Dubai, and so it was tough to know. But anyway, with them, I think it was about 2.5 days, and the first day, we stayed at their guest house, and we just went out and we did some shooting we asked them if we could drive along this road and shoot them out the window of the car, because we wanted to get some stuff of them moving alongside them. And a drone, you could have done that with a drone, but I think it was just cooler. It's just sometimes you do a shot because it's cool to shoot it, not because of any other reason. You know what I mean? And so in that case, sometimes there's a more practical way to shoot it, but I mean, I remember listening to Roger Deakins always talking about how he just wants to operate the camera, wants to be right there, and he wants to, like, that's half the fun. And so that's the shot right there. So we just rode alongside this road and had them go against this. And this was like right before we had paid our third bribe of the trip, and our license plate fell off during a river crossing. And if your license plate isn't on, like, those cops see you and they're just like, yep, I'm getting some money from these guys.
How did you pay for this thing? How did you make it happen financially? Because I can imagine you can have the best idea and the best of intentions and the best resources, but at the end of the day, I think in order to get somewhere this beautiful, it's going to cost you at least a flight.
1,000%.
A vehicle, gas, food.
Yeah, I think it's important when you first learn how to do any of this stuff with filmmaking. You kind of think that the creative kind of starts and stops with pressing record. And as you move forward, you start to learn that you need this pre-production process, and you need all these other things to really help make the shot sing. And it's not like, these filmmakers are just showing up with a camera and shooting stuff. And then I think the next step of that is starting to realize that your creativity can keep going and keep helping you get to these positions and meet these people and make these, get these opportunities to move forward. And you kind of have to do that yourself.
Right.
And I think that's where this really creative part comes in, where like, okay, well, if I have an idea, how can I make it really beautiful? And how can I show somebody this idea and maybe see if they want to be a part of it? All these brands are trying to do something different and something cool and something unique that is going to get eyeballs on their brand, right? And just shooting this straight up ad is always boring. But if you're able to utilize your connections and send a really beautiful idea to somebody and see if they're interested in it, you don't have to make an income on it. You don't have to buy a home off of this situation, but you can get them to say, hey, if you cover my costs of what this trip is, I can provide you so much, because this is doing for me far more than what it's going to do for this brand, but you can still make them a part of it. Right. And so the idea is, okay, well, let's look at what do we do whenever a brand is trying to hire somebody, right? They need to get these treatments, and they need to get their idea they need to see a director prove that they can do this idea, right? And as you start working in the production world, you get really good at that. And that's what I took to this project, which is essentially, let's make a really pretty deck that explains our idea really simply, that we can send to people. And instead of saying, hey, I have this idea in an email, do you want to hop on a phone and talk about it? It's like, here is the idea, here's the place, here's what we want to do for you, and show this to your boss or show this to whoever. Because that's the missing piece that people forget, is that they think that they're just going to have this conversation and it's going to happen and then they're going to be given this thing. Instead, you just have to show people, like, here's what it is, here's what we're going to do, you want to be a part of it or not? And they can go show their superiors and they can make that decision, right? So, and that's what we did. And this is you also probably should, this is the more generic one that we personalize it for each brand we send it to, but it's only like a few things here and there, like changing a few things.
So you made a V1, and then for each brand that you pitched it to, you kind of tailored it for that.
Exactly. And it's not like a massive overhaul by any means. It's just like small little things, right? And like, you don't want to blast this out to everybody, and then two creative directors who work at different companies are friends, and they're like, hey, did you get this? Yeah, I got the exact same thing. But if you can picture this and just have, like, I just added a few other details here and there. Like, for example, the brands on this project were Peak Design and Huckberry, and Huckberry decided that they liked it enough that they would cover all the expenses for the trip, and Peak Design really liked it. They didn't want to put up any money for it, but they also didn't ask for anything either. They just thought it was really cool, and they thought, hey, to support this, we're just going to send you one of everything that we have for each of you. And that was awesome. So that was cool. Yeah. And then Leica supports Jason and gave Jason all the support he needed for this as well. And so I think it's one of those things where, like, over time you build these connections and you have this Rolodex of people that can help you out. And if you don't have those quite yet, the people that you want to get to know are the creative directors and the social media people and all the people that are involved with making the decisions of or at least connected to the people that make the decisions of what moves forward and what doesn't. And and it doesn't have to be this thing that's like huge, that that's like $100,000 and it's this big project. And it's like, if they can get a few assets that they can use for advertising, and it costs them less than what it would, and it's just handed to them, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be something that they have to dig around in and make sure everything's right and all this other stuff. They can be like, get this raw, real stuff that really supports them and matches them. So
I love that, dude. Love that approach. I want to look at the piece you made for Huckberry, because it is different than the film you released.
Definitely, yeah. So when Huckberry said that they were interested in it, what they had essentially said is that they had, we asked them what kind of products do you have that you would maybe want featured or used or something along those lines, right? Like, we weren't trying to make them an ad at first.
Right.
and they had said that they had this shirt called Proof, this like line called Proof, and it's essentially, it's kind of like stuff material that you would see in like a workout shirt, something along those lines. And what it does is they call it the 72-hour shirt, and so you can wear it for 72 hours. And their whole positioning is that you can travel with it and you can camp with it and you know these things and it doesn't smell, right? You can wear it for 72 hours and have it not stink. And this was the perfect trip to put that to the test, right? And they had mentioned a sniff test. And when we were looking at, planning the whole thing, we noticed the train and we knew that we were going to have all this crazy footage, but trying to plan out a really perfect storyboarded thing wasn't really going to happen either. But if you could create blocks, right? If you could create a block of like, I know there's going to be a block of really cool stuff here and a block of really cool stuff here. Maybe we can plan this one scene, this one tiny little scene that we do plan and shoot, and then everything else will kind of cinch itself together. And in this case, it was this very simple script.
Yeah, I mean, did they have like any notes?
No, none. And I think that kind of comes with the nature of these sort of things, right? So like, if a brand's putting up, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're going to make sure that they get what they paid for, right? But this wasn't. This was so much more freedom to it, and I think brands, really, really creative, cool brands, understand that like when you're doing something like this, it doesn't really work that way, right? Yeah. And they knew that, and we, they took a chance on us to be like, you know what, we're going to pay for this. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, it's a drop in the bucket for their budget. But if it works out, then it's like a gamble, and it's a very low end game on their end, and it changes the world for us. So, and then when you have a background in production, you understand all these things, you can make it feel so much cooler and bigger and feel like it was planned out by understanding the certain components and certain limitations and working around them. So. And I don't know if this is important or not, but it cost around $4,000 to $5,000 to do the whole thing. And because we had this job in Dubai beforehand with one of our travel clients, we use this as a jumping off point. And then I think that's what I talk about when I say you really need to stretch that creativity to all aspects of filmmaking, including the part where you try to figure out financing and you try to figure out how to tell your story, and Quentin Tarantino and a lot of other directors always talk about how they say you need to write to what you have access to. And like, we work so hard to get a cool travel clients, and it takes time. And once you have that, you can't just like be like, well, I did it. Like you have to keep going and keep figuring it out. And in this case, we already had, we worked out into a contract that we had with this company that we would be able to move our flights. Because if we can move our flights, that means anywhere we go to, we could stay longer. We could use this as a jumping off point to another destination.
Wow.
We could do whatever. And so that's the type of creativity I'm talking about, where you say like, yeah, exactly. There's so much you can do. And so because instead of our flights costing, like $1,200, instead it costs like $200 because we were flying from Dubai to there and back. Yeah. And so, man, if you really leverage all these little things and create a story based on those limitations and based on those connections, like, the sky is the limit. Like, there's so much to be told in that scenario. And like, I wish brands would take that more, and I wish creative directors and agencies would understand that more, because so many times you get a story or something given to you and you're like, okay, I have 2 weeks to figure this out. I have nowhere near the budget. They asked for 25 talent and most of the budget's gonna go to that. And like all these things, and it's like, why can't, let's put it this other way and let's change it. And like that, I think that's what it means to be a director sometimes. It's just being like, how can I move this and bend this to be something that's gonna be the coolest? And sometimes that's color, and sometimes that's storytelling or script or whatever. And
dude, I want to talk about the edit on this, because you've got your 3-act structure, and the first one feels like a piece of its own and has this amazing... I was going to ask who did the voice of this, and then I heard you talk for about 5 seconds, and I was like, oh, it was his voice.
A funny thing is in chapter 2 is also me, the woman's voice. And
did you use 11 Labs?
I did, yes. I think that is...
No way!
High in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan, 2 men prepare their horses for a hunt.
People talk about this all the time, where they're like, AI this and AI that, and like, I think while other people are arguing about it, the people should just be using it. You know what I mean? Like, this is a perfect example of how AI can assist in these scenarios, and like, it still never beats having a real person be able to, like, a real voiceover artist. But I have used my voice in a lot of different things, and I like being able to change the inflection. And it feels like an art form in itself, and like, but I didn't want it to be me again. I wanted it to be something else. I wanted it to be this third person, this third party, almost like a deity or something talking about this thing that we came all this way to witness, and it felt like it needed to be different than me. But the best way to do that for me was like, I'm just gonna use 11 Labs. I think this is cool. I can fine tune the voice that I want, and I can still do the inflection I want, and I still don't, I only have so much time and so much budget and so much whatever to make this work, figure this out. So.
Yeah, this is becoming a hotter and hotter take, but I think there's ways to use AI in art that's honest and permissible, in my opinion.
And like when I see a project come out and it's got like 100 people in the credits list and they use some AI, it's like, well, there you go. That's a perfect example of how it's being used in a way that everyone still gets what they need. And, there's still dangers and there's still things that people, need to make sure, like there's tons of nefarious things happening with it, but like
tons.
Nothing's going to beat going out there and filming these things. And like, that's where the inspiration comes from for sure. Like being able to go out there and do it and like see it for yourself, whether it's on set or whatever, like that, there'll be people that want to sit in a room and figure it all out on a computer and do it all themselves. And that's cool too. But it's not the same as this. It's different, and so.
Yeah. Can we just talk about this third act? Because the first two are one thing, like very edited. You're bringing me through the story. And then I feel like the third act, dude, you just let us sit in it and you kind of demand attention with these long takes, these immersive landscapes. And I'm thinking like, that's pretty darn bold. Just tell me about your approach towards making the end of this epic film so quiet and so peaceful and still.
One of my favorite things in the world is finishing a trip and you're on the plane home and you're like, you got your AirPods in and you're just like listening to your favorite song for like the 17th time. And you're just like thinking about like all of the work you just did and how cool it was that you built this. And like, I love that feeling. It's like the aftermath. And the first chapter, you just like see the story for what it is. This is the story. And then the second chapter, it's like, I wanted to do that. We did this whole trip for these people, and then it needed a special occasion to itself, and it needed to be different, and it needed to have a lot of energy because it was just so full of energy being out there. And when you get to chapter 3, it's kind of like that plane ride home where it's just like, you feel it too. Like there's a point in the sound that I really wanted where you hear this hawk or the eagle doing its caw, and it just like echoes and reverberates into the next shot, and it's just that horse just chilling there, and you just hear it echo, and like that's the transition moment where you just go into this space of like reflection. And it doesn't to demand somebody to sit there and watch the whole thing. It's like, if you made it that far, you're probably gonna like it. If you didn't, you know what I mean? If you don't like it, then you wouldn't have made it that far anyway. So I think it just needed that little piece to think about it. And like, travel just changes everything for me. It totally changed my whole life in every way possible. And so having these moments to like just write out some thoughts that I had during this trip and thoughts that Jason had too, and pair it up with some of the clips that I thought still deserved some love. And so, and then it ends.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, that was a journey. It felt like a journey. It had all the ups and downs, and but it's not at the same time, it's not a movie. There's no climax, I guess. It's just,
right.
It just feels like that.
Yeah, I love it. We've all seen travel films before, but you're doing some different stuff with this one. And I absolutely love it. It does feel like a journey. Thanks for breaking that down with me, man. I want to switch gears entirely and just talk about Eyecandy for a second. For people who don't know what that is, what is Eyecandy?
Eyecandy is a visual library. It is a place where you can see a name and an image, or a GIF in this case, of every technique in filmmaking you can think of, or at least as many as can be put into a website with the given resources. And so essentially, it's an Instagram. If you don't follow it, it's a really cool place to see what the world is doing in filmmaking. And if you struggle when you watch something and you're like, what was that? What was that move? What was that thing that happened? I don't even know how to describe it. There's no words to describe some of these camera movements. But when you see it, you know it. And having a name associated with it is so crucial in order to grow and to learn and communicate with other people on your team and things like that. And it's just inspiration in general. And so that's what Eyecandy is. And
Yeah, I mean, us being frame set inspiration is a huge goal of ours, giving that to filmmakers. But people worry about this overuse of just recreating and mimicking what everyone is doing. You know, what's your take, your personal opinion on the use of references and you know, whether it's a ripoff or not?
Yeah, I think it's always a contentious thing, right? And it's a spectrum, because some people will say that things can only be creative if you just sit in a chair and stare at a blank wall and pull it out of nothing, right? And the problem with that is that no matter what you do, our brains are information machines. They just take in the information around us and the things we've seen and heard, and we recombobulate it and we turn it back into something else. And that happens no matter what you do, unless you were born in a sterile box and you don't see anything ever. Like, creativity always comes from somewhere. And so when you start to understand that, I think when you look at what painters do and what photographers do and what filmmakers and what dancers, all these people are watching everybody else create the same medium as them, and it's impossible to not incorporate some of that. So that's where it comes in, where you need to be more intentional. You need to understand how that process works and how to use it to your advantage. But also, you can't just recreate everything somebody does, because then now it slips into that land of plagiarism. And it's a fine line there, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, what is that line though? You know, I've talked to filmmakers about what that line is before, and like, you can't take it all.
No, you can't take it all. We know that for sure.
Take some of it.
Yes, it's this gray, like white to black gray spectrum, right? And like, everyone's gonna have a different spot on that spectrum. But there's a point whenever you stop saying it's gray and you just say it's black. You know what I mean? It's all the way on this one side. And I think the most valuable thing about it, though, and the most valuable thing about Frameset and Eyecandy and all these other accounts, is that people talk about it. And when you talk about it, it gives you a substance to latch onto and understand and realize where you might be on that same plane. And I think it's just fair for people to understand that, like, everyone uses references, and that's cool and that's okay, and that's that's the best way to create the coolest work, is to have someplace to start. So,
yeah, I didn't ask you, what's your contribution to Eyecandy?
My contribution to Eyecandy is a curator, and it's not. I want to make sure that people know too that this is Jacoby's baby, and Jacoby is a genius in his own right for creating this, but also in the work that he does with creative art direction for some of the biggest names and biggest brands out there. What I do and what I try to do is come up and take the same tastes that I have, and I put it through this Eyecandy filter. And people go to Eyecandy because it's loud. It's every technique on there, you know that it's that technique, right? Like, you see it in a way that's like it's out there, and it's very clear that there's something going on here that's different. And because of that, you want to know what it is. And when you look at your own taste and you go through it, and my own taste has a lot of that. It's not all my taste, but whenever I go through the things that I like and the things that I save and the things, all these different folders I have, there's certain things that just go, you know what, this is a perfect example of the dolly zoom, and it's just using it in a way I've never seen used before, or it has changed the industry as a whole, or like started a whole, new technique in general. And like, sometimes it's just combinations of techniques. All those things are things that I find really interesting, and I try to really bring those projects and put them on a platform like this. And so I'm really grateful for Jacoby for letting me do that.
I mean, like, what's something on here that you curated?
A perfect example is if you go down to, I like doing movies. I think movies are cool, and movies are really impactful. That one. A Space Odyssey was a perfect example of, like, here are some insane techniques that were used in a way that changed everything about filmmaking. And when you really study that and understand how they were done and why they were done and the context and all these different things, then you can start applying that and figuring out what's next for your own work and what's next in the industry and all this other stuff. And and this was made so long ago, and it's crazy how good it looks and how it's so wild.
Yeah, and you realize that people have been doing a lot of this stuff for years, but it's just because it's so old and it's not front of mind for a culture today, it's easy to forget this stuff, in my opinion.
Oh, 1,000%. It's easy, so easy to forget it, and so easy to I think it's very similar to fashion in that way. Like, I mean, it's like every 25 years you start seeing stuff that was from 25 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like this cycle that sort of happens, and that all that goes back to the whole concept of using references and inspiration. And now you're back in my.
I know we're going deep here. We're going off the rails. Talking
that was
about
when I first started.
Dang, dude, hand-holding a 35, big cinema.
Yeah, that was I remember that project being pretty game-changing for me, but so long ago. Not something to focus on this one for sure.
You and I could go for hours and hours. Jack, thanks for breaking down this wonderful piece you've made called A Journey, and thanks for giving us your brain.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Hey, it's Dylan. Frameset did it again. They've added a new lane to the highway of speed. So unless your internet connection is trash, you can search, save, and share faster than ever. There's also this new thing called subsets. Like folders within a folder, you can organize any set by scene, technique, lighting style, you get it. Finally, we all know how important collaboration is when it comes to filmmaking. So now you can create a workspace, build sets together, and share your highly curated folders of inspiration to your DP, your director, your crew, your therapist, my therapist. Right now, Frameset is focused on these incremental changes that make it easier and easier to develop your ideas before you shoot them. See exactly what I mean with the link below.